How's it going, folks? Welcome back to #AskGSM here today. My apologies if your question did not make the cut. I had to cut off the deadline today at Sunday because I'll be traveling for most of Monday, so I'm filming this video on Sunday instead. But if you do want to send in a question for future editions, you can tweet me on Twitter with the #AskGSM at WrestleRant. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. And finally, leave a comment down below in the comment section. So therefore, today's video will be a little bit shorter than usual because I did not get as many questions per usual because I cut off the deadline on Saturday night. It was a late minute executive decision, but still we got a surprising amount of questions for me putting it up on Saturday night. I'm surprised a lot of people sent in as many questions as they did, so thank you for those that sent in the questions. And again, my apologies for the last minute decision. I didn't think I was going to be able to film on Monday, and I probably won't. This video will probably be up on Monday, but I'm recording it on Sunday because I won't have any time between then and now, now to film it. But anyway, going down to the questions for this week, for starting with the YouTube questions, the first KFC, their question was, if you could choose to give either Dolph Ziggler or Wade Barrett a push, who would you give it to? That's a good question, because like I talked about last week with Dolph Ziggler, apparently he's re-signed a new contract. Again, this is all rumor, all speculation. There's nothing set in stone. Ziggler made a crack at it on his Twitter this past week, so we really have no idea what the situation with Dolph Ziggler is. But like I said in last week's video, I feel like if Dolph Ziggler is not going to get that push that he deserves towards the main event level, because that's where he belongs. The guy's been with the company for almost 10 years, well over 10 years by this point. And if he's not going to be given that push where he belongs at the main event level, then why bother sticking around? They obviously have no plans for him right now with this whole partnership thing with Lana, other than, that feud with Rusev, which, that could be fine. And I put some of the blame on creative, just this whole partnership, this alliance with Lana, and this whole pairing with Lana and Ziggler just has no chemistry. It's not working out. Rusev is being, just having his balls cut off. The guy is completely just emasculated over the last couple of weeks in this whole stupid feud and falling down and the crutches. Just take the guy off TV altogether. It's not doing him any favors. Summer Rae, I really don't care about her involvement in any of this. Her and Rusev have no chemistry. Ziggler and Lana have no chemistry. I just don't really care for it. So anyway, going back to what your question was, Ziggler at least is on TV. He's winning some matches. He can win here and there. He has some competitive matches. He's still over. Wade Barrett is not over at all. People do not care. The silence he came out to last week on Raw in his match against Zack Ryder spoke volumes. The King Barrett thing is not working out. That was my bad. I thought it would when he won King of the Ring, but obviously WWE had other plans, or lack thereof of plans, so to speak. And he's losing every single week. A win over Zack Ryder, sure, is, at least he won, but against Zack Ryder really is not that credible. And he's been losing against R-Truth every week. He's still feuding with him. Why, I'm not a R-Truth fan, but I think the thing is that, he has his role as a comedy character, but to put him in feuds with guys like Cody Rhodes, Stardust, whatever, King Barrett is not doing those guys any favors. I couldn't care less about R-Truth. Anything he is involved in, he brings everyone down to his level. And it's not elevating him, it's more so bringing guys like Barrett and Rhodes and Stardust, whatever, down to his level. So, I'm not a fan. But yeah, King Barrett, you would think that for a guy that won the Intercontinental Championship, held it for 3 months, and won King of the Ring, you would think be doing a lot better off right now, but that couldn't be any further from the case. Any further from the truth, because the guy is doing horrendous right now. People do not care. He's losing every week. He's a joke. It really sucks considering his immense talent. So, of those two, it's a hard decision, but I'd probably go with Barrett because at least Ziggler is winning matches. The guy's still over. The same cannot be said for Wade Barrett right now. His second question, if Edge didn't retire a few years ago, would he still be wrestling for WWE? No. I'm pretty sure Edge made this clear in his DVD and other interviews and stuff that his contract was set to expire, and it did, in 2012. At that point, he was planning to wrestle his final match at WrestleMania 28. And I believe there were talks of that show being held in, at that point when he retired, it was already set in stone. It was going to Miami. But I think a lot of people were hoping, myself included, the show was going to be emanating from Canada. It would be a great place for Edge to go out and retire. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. They went to Miami, which was still a great show, one of my favorite WrestleManias of all time, recently being surpassed by WrestleMania 31. That's another video for another day. But yeah, Edge did make it clear on multiple occasions that he would have retired at WrestleMania 28. My mic just went down. Sorry about that. But maybe I'm making stuff up here. I'm not really sure. I'm not intentionally, but maybe I'm just kind of getting the wrong information. I think he wanted his last match to be against Christian, ideally. I don't know if that was the plan. Creative probably would have screwed it up anyway, but I think he might have wanted to have his last match against his best friend Christian. Whether he would have dropped the title to him or something along those lines, whether it would have been a title match at all, I have no idea. I don't know if they would have done that, but, based off what we saw after Edge retired, maybe they were going to do Edge and Christian coming out of WrestleMania instead of waiting till WrestleMania 28. I really have no idea, but that would have been a great way for both guys to go out if Christian did indeed retire as well at that event. Next question, also from YouTube Pig Window. Their question was, as you mentioned in last week's video, the WWE does not have a great track record with booking Invasion storylines. That being said, how would you go about booking an NXT Invasion angle? Well, like I said last week, the best thing I would go about, how would I go about booking this angle? I wouldn't do an Invasion angle with the NXT talent. If it happened, don't get me wrong, it would be great. I would mark the hell out, but just that thought in the back of your mind that they're going to screw that up. And it's not a great mindset to have, like a very pessimistic outlook. But the WWE's track record, they've given me no faith, have given anybody faith that they will actually book an Invasion storyline right. The Nexus, the Alliance angle from over 10, 15 years ago are all prime examples that WWE, the ECW Invasion from a couple years ago, like I talked about in last week's video, they just don't have a great track record of doing it. So therefore, I would not do it. And people have brought up the idea and have asked me here on the show, would you do an NXT rookie match versus the pros match and whatever? It would be cool, like a Survivor Series match, 5 guys from NXT, 5 guys from the main roster. But again, my main fear is that they would make those NXT guys look inferior because they give them the mindset, they're rookies. Even though these guys have been wrestling longer than some of the main roster talents, guys like Tommy and Balor and Owens, like he brought up in his segment against John Cena a couple weeks ago when he made his debut, Maybe those fears have been quelled a little bit with Owens' clean win over John Cena, giving that impression that anything can happen with these NXT rookies. And Triple H is going to do right by them, but when Vince McMahon is still in charge and he's still booking the show and he still gets the green light on everything, I'm not 100% confident they would do it right. So, bottom line, I would not book an NXT Invasion angle. But if I had to, you can't just have the guys rush in at the end of an episode of Raw or something like that and, attack John Cena. Because we saw that 5 years ago at the Nexus. You have to kind of freshen it up a little bit. You can't do like the third man kind of thing with Owens, like the NWO. You got to do something completely different that we have not seen before. I'm not that creative, so I can't tell you, but maybe Owens starts recruiting people from NXT and he recruits, Balor and Atomic, because we've seen pictures of those guys in the past all doing the, the too sweet thing with the hand signal with Triple H and stuff. Like, if Triple H were to, that would be amazing. If Triple H got rid of the Authority and he recruited all these NXT guys, that would probably be my idea for it. If Triple H was kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes, it would explain also, like with the Nexus, why didn't they just fire them? I think they did fire them at one point, the Nexus guys, and they brought them back because they feared that they were going to attack them. Something dumb. That's when the whole anonymous GM bull crap came about. But, with Triple H as a part of the Authority and leading leading the revolution, so to speak, they can't be fired because he's the one that's in charge of them, I don't know if I would have him be the direct leader like Evolution or, Degeneration X or something like that. But, if he was behind the scenes, pulling the strings kind of thing, that would be pretty cool. So maybe that's one way to go about it. Just an idea, nothing, set in stone. But that's one idea that came to mind when you mentioned that. And the next question of theirs was, how do you feel about a potential Wade Barrett versus Cesaro feud? The idea could be based around how Cesaro is the self-proclaimed king of swing and feels that he is more of a king than Barrett. I feel that the matches could be stellar and it could make both superstars relevant again. I love it. I think it's great, but the only issue with it right now is that both guys need wins. Barrett cannot afford to continue to lose every other match, every single match that he's involved in. Cesaro, while he is less desperate of wins, he needs more wins to establish himself as a single star, and that Tyson Kidd is out with an injury. So I feel like in this case that it's one of those situations where there's so many guys in the roster right now that are in a lose-lose situation, much like Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt. Roman Reigns needs a big win. Bray Wyatt needs a big win. So it's, again, I like the feud. I don't really mind it right now. The whole kidnapping of the daughter thing, it's unique, I guess. But, both guys need wins, and it, very much makes me concerned for their match at Battleground in regards to who goes over. So in that case, I have the same exact fear. But on paper, though, that aside, I think it'd be a great feud. I love your idea. Not just, you could have just said, what about the idea of a Barrett versus Cesaro feud? And I would have loved it. But I like the idea of the whole King of Swing versus King of the Ring thing. I've seen other people pitch that before. I think it's a great idea. It would, like you said, make both superstars relevant again. Once again, like I said before, I don't know how you would book who goes over and whatever else. But still, I think, like you said, the matches could be very, very good. We've only seen it maybe once before, I think in the final Raw of 2015, or 14 rather. And I was really hoping that was the direction they were going, and maybe doing a feud between those guys. And Barrett would have been the babyface in that case. But now that Cesaro's the babyface, the roles would be reversed. Still, I really like that idea. If you're not going to do a feud, then put them in a tag team. You know, I know Cesaro's kind of already been tag teamed to death with Tyson Kidd and Jack Swagger and Chris Hero from Ring of Honor, but the guy's a great tag team wrestler, and if you put him with Barrett in some sort of, European stable, much like a lot of people were hoping for with Sheamus and Barrett, I think that'd be great. That'd be awesome. So I would love to see something along those lines. But nevertheless, though, I think something along the lines of a Barrett-Cesaro feud, I'm all on board for, and I think that'd be great for both parties involved. But like I said, with the exception of the whole lose-lose situation, but the matches, as you mentioned, could be really, really good. Moving into the Twitter questions, no Facebook questions this week. Like I said, I put up the post about gathering questions at like 11 o'clock last night, so I don't blame anyone for not sending any questions. So, like I said, next week we should be back on track. You should be able to send in your questions by Sunday night. I apologize for the deadline being earlier, but going into the Twitter questions, at Daniel Cabeza 59's got a couple of them. First one being, so it seems that Daniel Bryan has a career-ending injury. It's been reported that it might be a concussion, but his question was, if Bryan does not wrestle anymore, do you think he deserves a Hall of Fame induction? Very good question. Personally, the WWE Hall of Fame, there's really no agenda. There's no criteria, I guess is the word I'm looking for, to determine whether you're Hall of Fame worthy. It's all up to WWE. It's all politics. Who is promoting what this year, like with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and what you're doing, what you've done with the company, how many appearances you've had on Raw, and whatever else, So it's all real politics. To me, the WWE Hall of Fame is everything they own. If you were in WCW and ECW, it doesn't matter as long as you were involved in a territory that is owned by WWE. So that's what I feel makes you worthy of being in the Hall of Fame. Also, your credentials, the championships you held, the impact you had on the business, if you were a memorable character for all the right reasons. So that's my criteria for the Hall of Fame. It's different for everybody. It's completely subjective. It should not be that way, but that's what it is with the WWE Hall of Fame. But anyway, in my opinion, I would think so. He has, you look at his long list of credentials: former United States champion, Intercontinental champion, Tag Team champion, Triple Crown champion, Grand Slam champion by WWE's criteria of that, which is I've already ranted about that in the past. Also, a multi-time world champion, won the main event of WrestleMania, one of the most over guys in the last couple of years. So, Mr. Money in the Bank, yeah, I would say so. I would certainly say he's probably Hall of Fame worthy. Based off those championships alone, the longevity of his career, I know it's only 5 years in WWE, but they also recognize his work over in Ring of Honor and the website and stuff like that. And as I mentioned, he made an impact for the few years of his time as a main eventer from 2013 to modern day. He is definitely one of the most over, popular, and memorable characters in the last couple of years. And I'm a huge Warrior fan, but the guy did not have a very lengthy career in WWE. He also won the main event of WrestleMania, won the WWE Championship, was one of the most popular guys of his time for the few years he was there, and had a very successful career in WWE for the 3 or 4 years he was with the company. And Daniel Bryan has amounted to even more success than the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, it's a different time. He's won more championships, of course, because, there's more titles to be won in 2015 than there was in 1988. But still, Daniel Bryan in a very similar boat. I'm not saying he's the next Ultimate Warrior, but I'm saying, very, very popular. Lit the wrestling world on fire for the few years that he was around as a main event guy. Former Intercontinental champion, and won the main event of WrestleMania by beating two of the biggest stars in the last 10 years, and Randy Orton and Batista. Also beat John Cena in the main event of SummerSlam 2013 clean. So, I would say personally, yeah, Daniel Bryan is Hall of Fame worthy. A lot of people may not agree on that, but for my criteria, for my credentials anyway, based off Bryan's credentials, I would definitely give him the nod to go in the Hall of Fame at some point. Not like next year, but down the line, I would say he is Hall of Fame worthy. His next question: what's your opinion on Vince still trying to protect John Cena? What is your opinion on Vince still trying to protect John Cena? He does not need to be protected anymore. Yeah, I agree. John Cena could lose a match. I don't know if that's the notion or the mindset with Vince, is that if John Cena loses the match, he's dead in the water. It's, if you do it every once in a while, you do it when the situation is right. I'm not saying you job John Cena out to everybody, but it really packs a punch with guys like Kevin Owens when you do it. Every once in a while with the name that could desperately need a clean win, that truly needs that win over John Cena in a clean fashion. I think it really benefited Kevin Owens in that respect. And you might be referring to that report. I don't know if you sent me it, Daniel, or if somebody else did. I remember reading it. I think it was you. And that the report said, I don't know who the source was, but they were saying that Triple H wanted to have that match of Money in the Bank end with John Cena getting knocked out via referee stoppage after being powerbombed on the ring apron, and Vince wanted John Cena to win clean, and that was it. So they ended up doing the best of both worlds, had John Cena win clean, but Owens took him out afterwards. And Triple H is right. John Cena would not have had to be pinned in that case. Much like at Fastlane, he could just pass out, and John Cena, he loses via referee stoppage, and he doesn't have to get pinned for the second consecutive pay-per-view in a row. I love that idea. I thought they were going to do like a DQ or a countout, and they didn't do that, which is fine. But the clean pinfall, I know what they did afterwards. Owens is still fine. He's not buried or anything like that. But, I think that would have been great if they went that direction and had Owens win the match via referee stoppage. That would have been a great way of ending the match. And, Vince, is he out of touch? I would think so. I would personally say so. But, I definitely agree. I think Vince is still trying to protect John Cena, too much. Protecting John Cena is fine if you want to have him lose very rarely, which is completely okay. He's your top guy. I understand why you would want to do that, why you would want to do that. But, in that case, and with what he, potentially, reportedly suggested for that how that match ended and what they wanted to do or what Vince wanted to do, there's no point. I like Triple H's thinking of it. Like I said, you don't have to have John Cena lose every single week or every single big match he's involved in. But you have to kind of ease up a little bit, make him lose every once in a while. When it matters, you don't have to do it every single month. But, I don't know why Vince would still want to protect John Cena in 2015. Even though he loses the big match to Kevin Owens, it's not like people are going to look at John Cena as, oh, look, he's a loser. He's not going to be any less over than he was the week before when he lost. It adds more character development. It makes people more interested in his feuds to see, oh, shit, John Cena just lost clean. What's happening? What's going to happen next? So I think it only benefits John Cena, if anything. It's kind of a weird case, but John Cena losing in the rare cases that he does is a benefit to his character because people get more invested and intrigued by what is next, what the future holds for John Cena. His next question, who is the best heel of all time and why? Wrestlers, I was really trying to think. I wrote a whole article about the top 10 PG era heels, including, I think I put Jericho at the top. I don't know if I would call him the best heel of all time, because he only lasted, he was the heel for a while, but his really red-hot year was 2008. CM Punk is up there. I don't know if I would put him at 2 or 3, but he's up there as well. Edge, Orton. But of all time, and in WWE anyway, I'd probably have to go with either Bobby Heenan, because the guy was great. In any role that you put him in, either as a wrestler, a manager, a commentator, the guy was one of the greatest, if not the greatest heel of all time, along with Mr. McMahon. Again, these guys weren't known for their wrestling skills. McMahon was an authority figure, Heenan, a manager / commentator, a wrestler too, but more so known as one of the greatest of all time for being a manager and a commentator. With Vince McMahon during the late 1990s, no one was more hated. For a time that it was so cool to love the bad guys with the NWO, Vince ensured that you hated him. Much like CM Punk, he's very similar in that vein. But there was just something, Punk ultimately fell victim to that as well. He was so great as a heel that he ultimately had to turn babyface. There was never any point, for the most part, in the late 1990s, during his feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin, that Vince endeared himself to the audience intentionally, and then even if he was going to get over with the fans because people loved him so much, he would turn them against him once again, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think I would have to go with either Vince McMahon in that case or Bobby Heenan, two of the greatest heels of all time in WWE or wrestling history. There's probably other names, Roddy Piper, The Rock to an extent. Again, like I said, he's very, very popular as a babyface, and I'd probably go with him as a face over as a heel. But still, in that case, though, to answer your question, the two names that came to my mind when you asked that were Bobby Heenan and Vince McMahon. His next question, who's your favorite tag team of all time and why? My favorite tag team of all time does not come in WWE, oddly enough. It comes in TNA. This is a very rare case where my favorite, match or feud or superstar wrestler of all time comes in TNA. And it comes with my favorite tag team, Beer Money. Loved Beer Money, James Storm, and Bobby Roode. Unfortunately, as I film this, it looks like James Storm was on his way out of the company, so I was really hoping that was what was next for him after the Revolution wrapped up, so that sucks. But, yeah, James Storm I think is great. I was always a huge fan of his, much like with Bobby Roode. But going back to Beer Money, though, when I first started watching TNA about 7 years ago in the summer of 2008, I think they were either in the first match I ever watched, the first ever TNA match I ever watched, or among them. I know they were definitely in that first episode, and they just had such great chemistry together. They were together for 3 years when I was watching wrestling. They might have just first joined up when I first started watching TNA in the summer of 2008. They may have gotten together in 07. I think it was 08, though. And around that period in time, they were just so great. They dominated tag team wrestling, not only in TNA, but in WWE as well. The tag team division in WWE was not the strongest at that period in time, and those guys were just so great, the best team in all of wrestling. So I'd probably have to go with Beer Money. I'm trying to think, of, and I've been asked this before, what's your favorite WWE tag team of all time? And I really, maybe there is one I'm not thinking of right now. I loved Air Boom. They didn't last for very long, but I loved Air Boom, Team Hell No as well. The Shield probably, the Wyatt family, the Usos, the Rhodes brothers are probably up there, but none of them even come close to Beer Money. Loved Beer Money, my favorite tag team of all time. Hands down, loved the feud. I loved the team. I loved the feud they had between those guys afterwards. Everything about those guys, James Storm and Bobby Roode, the history those two guys have is my favorite story in all of TNA's history, in my personal opinion. Like I said, favorite and best are two very different things. My favorite feud and favorite tag team. Favorite feud for TNA is Bobby Roode and James Storm. Favorite tag team of all time, wrestling and WWE TNA otherwise, has to be Beer Money from the time I started watching wrestling 7 years ago. Next question of his, and his last and final question, and a very good question at that, was, actually just scrolled up by accident, would 2011 still be your favorite year if there was no Summer of Punk? And that I thought was a great question, because I've gone on the record and saying before, 2011 was my favorite year in wrestling. Personally, wrestling-wise, it was a great year for WWE, I thought. But taking out the Summer of Punk, because like I said before, 2011 on the whole was not a great year for WWE. For me, personally watching and stuff, it was. But for WWE, creative-wise, the product-wise, was not great. Coming out of WrestleMania, was not great in the fall. It was complete poop by that point in time. And the summer was that one time. My favorite summer season to date was the summer of 2011. It was so goddamn good. Not just the Summer of Punk stuff, too, but Orton and Christian, Mark Henry's rise, the rise of Daniel Bryan, all these other things, firing in all cylinders that summer. The return of Kevin Nash, which I know a lot of people were not fans of, but when that happened, I was marking the hell out. I thought that was great. There's so many things about that time period that I love so much. But if you take out the Summer of Punk, you take out everything with, what happened with CM Punk and John Cena, would it still be my favorite year in wrestling? If we still got Orton and Christian, we're considering that still a part of that year. Probably not. That's a great question. I don't think so. Because I think the whole stuff with CM Punk and John Cena, like I said, was the best thing about that year. There were a lot of other good things as well, but that was above and beyond the greatest thing that year. My favorite time to be a wrestling fan ever in the 7 years I've been watching. But you take that away, and that year is definitely not as good as it was. There's still a lot of good aspects about it, but you take that whole summer away with CM Punk and John Cena, would it have been as good? Probably not. Definitely not. I could say that right now. But, in that case, I'd probably go with 2008. That's always been a close second for me in terms of my favorite years, because that was the year I started watching. A lot of great feuds that year. Edge and Undertaker, Jericho and Shawn Michaels, Batista and John Cena. I love that match. I don't know why, but I love that match from SummerSlam. So many things, so many great things. CM Punk cashing in. I love 2008. That'd probably be my favorite year if the Summer of Punk never happened. So, very good question there to close off a handful of questions from Daniel. At Cody Collier 37, his question was, who do you think is the most underrated face of the PG era and why? So I don't know by this question you meant the underrated face as in, the face of WWE or an underrated baby face. I wasn't really sure. As the face of WWE, face of the Attitude Era, or face of the PG era, rather. Sheamus gets overlooked a lot. A lot of people call him boring, but he arrived pretty much not at the start of the PG era. He arrived 1 year later in the summer of 2009, but he's been the most successful PG-era guy for a lot of reasons. Former 3-time world champion, now Mr. Money in the Bank, Royal Rumble winner, King of the Ring winner, 2-time United States champion. So the guy's been very, very successful in his time with WWE. And when I think of the PG era, I think of Sheamus probably because of his terrible face run. I was not a fan of him as a babyface. He was over, but he just works so much better as a heel. He's so great right now. Underrated babyface of the PG era, though. There's probably an answer for this. I couldn't really spend too much time thinking about an answer to this question, but Randy Orton. I did not like him as a babyface, in 2011 or 2012 or 2013 even. I thought he was very much watered down by that point in time. But 2010 and currently, I think are the most pivotal times in Orton's career in a very long time. In 2010, as much as he is now, I am a huge fan of Randy Orton. I loved Randy Orton, back in 28 and 09 when he was still a heel. 2008, not 28. 2008, he was so great in, the punting people in the head and going after the McMahon family and the whole Viper, Apex Predator thing. It was a little goofy at times, I got that, but I thought it was great. He was one of the best damn heels in 09, if not the best heel that year, along with CM Punk. But anyway, though, I think Orton is a babyface. Well, he's much more comfortable as a heel. I think not even as a babyface, but as a tweener, that anti-hero-like character. He's awesome. 2010, I freaking loved Randy Orton. The guy was great. He reminded me of like a PG era-esque Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's setting the bar really, really high, but without the... he wasn't wearing any wristbands by that point in time, RKOing people out of nowhere, much like stunning people out of nowhere, taking on authority. I thought it was great. I loved Randy Orton back in 2010. As much as I love him now, if not more than I loved him back in 2010. I think right now Orton is very underrated. I think the guy is so super over right now. He's not stale at all. And he's so great as an anti-hero when he's taking on babyfaces and heels. When he's doing, when he's a cookie cutter babyface, then I'm not a fan. But when he's allowed to be himself and allowed to just kind of cruise along as a tweener / anti-hero, he is awesome. So I love Randy Orton as a babyface from 2010 and 2015, and a character that really does not get as much praise as it should, in my opinion, thus making him underrated in my mind. Next question, or next two questions, come from Matt Swag Zio. Their question was, first one being, should Magnus and James Storm go to WWE? Both guys have since requested their release. Reportedly, James Storm will be gone after Slammiversary, whereas Magnus will be gone likely after Slammiversary as well tonight as I record this. So that sucks to hear because I love both guys. I'm a huge fan of both James Storm and Magnus. Both guys might be Global Force Wrestling bound, more likely Magnus named James Storm. Maybe they're doing an invasion. I don't know. Would be interesting, I guess, but again, the whole invasion thing has been done to death. But going back to what I was saying before, though, with Magnus and James Storm, if they don't go anywhere else, they don't go to Ring of Honor, maybe they could, Samoa Joe went to Ring of Honor before he went to WWE. It's kind of a time filler, a place to go to if you have nowhere else to go to before you're waiting to go to WWE or whatever. Ring of Honor is awesome. I would love to see both guys go there. But should they go to WWE? Of those two, if I was Vince McMahon, I had to sign one of these guys. I would sign both of them, but if I had to sign one, I would probably go with Magnus. He's younger. He's a guy that I would put my world championship on. A lot of people may not agree with that, but I'm a huge Magnus fan. I just think that guy has that it factor. He was over as a babyface for a time in TNA back in 2011 or 2012 or maybe 2013, I think it was, before they just kind of put the brakes on him for whatever reason. They turned him heel, which was a very dumb decision. And but anyway, I think he's got the look. He's very good in the ring. He's a great mic worker. The guy screams, but then again, he screams main event material. But again, though, look at the past treatment of English superstars in WWE, most notably and most recently Wade Barrett, a guy who has also the same skills, a lot of the same skills and tools that Magnus does, and look what they're doing to him right now. So maybe it's not the wisest decision to have Magnus go to WWE. But I would love to see him in WWE. James Storm, I feel like they would water him down a lot, which, no pun intended, beer, water, whatever. I feel like he would not be the same character that he is right now. This cult-like following, the cult leader thing, that's not going to fly in WWE. They already have a character like that in Bray Wyatt. The whole beer-drinking babyface fan favorite character would also not fly in WWE because they would not want to make another, a hybrid of Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I don't know what gimmick they would give him, but it would not be whatever he has right now. But I think him and Bobby Roode would be money, no pun intended, beer money, that is, in WWE together. Again, I think they would not be able to be beer money, obviously, given the gimmick, but their tag team wrestling alone, they were entertaining as characters, but their tag team work alone was definitely warranted of being in WWE. Those guys were great together, like I said before. So of those two, I'd probably go with Magnus, but I would love to see both guys in WWE. I just don't think they'll sign James Storm, because I know Samoa Joe and Finn Balor and Tommy, they're all like, if they're in their 30s too, there's really no reason why they shouldn't sign Samoa Joe or an AJ Styles like I talked about before. But James Storm is not an AJ Styles. He's not as good in the ring as a Styles or a Samoa Joe. He's great, but he doesn't have that same appeal that those guys do. He's been around a long time. He's been a TNA original, much like AJ Styles. But AJ Styles to me screams, global phenomenon. James Storm screams TNA original. Styles, so does Styles, but he could be, he can work over in Japan and Ring of Honor and all these other different countries and territories, whatever. Storm is very American-based, in my opinion. That's just the way his gimmick screams, to me anyway. But still, I would like to see him in WWE. Not likely at all. Magnus, again, not likely, but of the two, I would probably go with him because he has a lot more miles on his career than Storm does. And he feels like a guy that WWE would want, given his look and just having the full package of mic skills, look, and ring skills, etc., etc. Would love to see both guys in WWE in a dream scenario. We're not going to count on it, but it would be great, though. His second question, what is your least favorite match at Battleground? And again, I didn't get whether you were talking about the history of Battleground or the list of matches at Battleground for this year. So I'll just answer both questions. Least favorite Battleground match, ever, which is not saying much. The pay-per-view, we've only had 2 pay-per-views up to this point in 2013 and 2014. 2014 I enjoyed. The 2013 show I thought was terrible. Probably my least favorite pay-per-view of all time. I thought that pay-per-view sucked. That was one of the first pay-per-views in years. I think it was the first pay-per-view in at least 3.5 years since I started watching the pay-per-views on a monthly basis that I didn't watch that pay-per-view because I was just either homework or pay-per-view, and most of the time I would go with the pay-per-view. I would do my homework during the show, but at that point I was like, this pay-per-view is probably going to suck. I don't want to watch it on some shitty-ass website, and this is during the network, and before the network era, rather. And I'm like, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not even going to watch the show, and I wasted my time watching it the next day, and I'm glad I did for the Cody Rhodes and Goldust versus Shield match, but everything else in that show was terrible. But other than that match, that show was very, very bad. So, least favorite Battleground match would probably have to be from that show. I thought that show was not good at all. Bryan versus Big Show. I put Bryan and Big Show here, but it was actually Bryan and Randy Orton. The match was not that good. Was not at all their best match from that fall. They didn't have many great matches for that fall for some reason. Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton. They had a lot of good matches that summer, just not a lot of good matches in the fall for whatever reason. They just never clicked as I thought they would. But that match wasn't really that good. To add to it, they had Big Show come down, knock both guys out, and walk away, ending the WWE Championship main event of a pay-per-view in a no contest, no official ruling. It just left you wondering, wow, what a terrible main event. One of the worst main events in recent WWE history. So I'd probably have to go with that match. Least favorite match on the current Battleground card. I would say Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt. I feel like that could be a really good match, though, so I'm not going to say that one. I was also excited for when it was announced. I just, again, it's just a lose-lose situation, but anyway. Probably the Triple Threat IC title match. I'm actually looking forward to that. I'm actually looking forward to a lot of the matches on the current card. But of the matches as they stand, I'd probably have to go with the Triple Threat IC title match. It's my least favorite, of the many of the matches already confirmed for the card. Excuse me, because I feel like, Big Show and Ryback, they could have some good chemistry. Miz and Ryback as well, but just all three together, I'm not sure. The feud has been fun pretty far, so far. I think they've made the most of it. Now that put forth some good work in that in the feud up to this point. But of the matches on the card, I'm even looking forward to New Day versus Primetime Players. I think that could be a good match. In the main event for the championship, Lesnar and Rollins is going to be phenomenal. Same thing with Kevin Owens and John Cena for the U.S. Championship. So of the many matches already confirmed for the card, I'd probably have to go with the Triple Threat Intercontinental title match. Up next, at Reborn again, his question was, what are your 2 or 3 favorite Brock Lesnar matches? Now, I have so many of them, so it's kind of hard to limit them to only 2 or 3. Above and beyond, my favorite Brock Lesnar match has to be, undoubtedly, Brock Lesnar versus CM Punk from Battleground, back on that shitty show after the previous question, would have to be from SummerSlam 2013. My favorite match from that year, in my personal opinion, the best match from that year, Punk and Lesnar. Some people weren't fans of it. I know John was not a huge fan of that match because he couldn't really suspend his disbelief in thinking that Punk could actually beat Lesnar. But I thought that the chemistry those guys had, the chemistry those guys had together was so great, given their similar MMA backgrounds. The feud was awesome. The involvement from Paul Heyman was great. The no disqualification stipulation was very, very well fitting as well. So, yeah, I thought it was great. I love that match, above and beyond my favorite Brock Lesnar match. But other Lesnar matches I really enjoyed, the triple threat match from the Royal Rumble this year, for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship with John Cena and Seth Rollins would have to be up there. The match with Undertaker, not from WrestleMania 30, that was a shit show, but rather the match from I want to say No Mercy 02? I think No Mercy 03, or maybe it was 03. No, I think it was 02. 03 was the Bikers Chains match, wasn't it? The Bikers Chain match. And 02, I think, was Hell in a Cell. So I'd probably have to go with that match. I thought that match was phenomenal. One of my favorite cell matches of all time inside Hell in a Cell. The match with Kurt Angle from the Iron Man match from SmackDown, I thought that was a great match too. So those two matches from his previous run of the company. The match with Kurt Angle from WrestleMania that year I thought was also really, really good. A lot of favorite Brock Lesnar matches. The guy's so great. The matches with John Cena from Extreme Rules and the match from SummerSlam last year. The one with Roman Reigns from WrestleMania this past year, WrestleMania 31. But above and beyond, my favorite Brock Lesnar match would have to be the match with Punk from SummerSlam. I just love that match so much. Not only my favorite match from that year, but it's a bold, statement to make. Some people may not agree, but I would put that down as the best match from 2013. Even better than John Cena and Daniel Bryan from that same show. I thought Lesnar and Punk was better. Not by much, but still a better match in my personal opinion. Next two questions come from @Scarlet1. First one being, how likely is another Brock Lesnar title reign, and how long do you think it would or should last? No, I don't think it's too likely. I think they did that. They had their fun with Lesnar as champion. They can't go another few months with him being champion and not being on the road and doing house shows and stuff like that. They just can't do it. So, would I be against it? Maybe. I don't know. I think the first time I wasn't against it because I thought it was a good idea. It made the title feel more special, like a special attraction. So I wasn't against it then. I was fine with them doing it for 6 or 7 or 8 months. That was a long time. They can't do that again, though. I don't think they could do that at any point in the near future. We already saw it. Seth Rollins has been doing really well with that championship. So, no, I don't think it's too likely, nor do I really want to see it happen. But if they did do it, maybe they put the belt back on him at Battleground, and they have him lose it either that same night with Sheamus cashing in, or they do it at SummerSlam. But at the very least, if he was to win it back, he'd probably hold it for like a month. They're not going to do another multi-month thing without him champion, especially as a babyface. It worked when he was a heel because people were like, oh, where the fuck is Lesnar? He should be defending the belt, myself included, and it worked into his heel heat. So I thought it was great with him being a heel at that time. But now that he's a babyface, and it wouldn't work out as well, so I don't think it's too likely. But if they were going to do it, worst case scenario, they do it. He wins it back at Battleground, loses that same night, or loses it the following month at SummerSlam. Next question of theirs was, how much of the current Divas storylines piquing your interest, assuming that's possible, in its 2015 state? Not at all, man. Not at all are the current state of the Divas division piquing my interest. I don't blame it on the women at all. I think Paige is really, really good. I like Naomi. I like Natalya. Even the Bella Twins, I'm not a fan of theirs at all, but even there, even Nikki Bella can be a really effective heel character if the booking of these women wasn't so freaking terrible. The whole constant babyface heel turns and the no characters at all and heel matches. Like, I don't give a shit. No one cares, And it's really sad because it really looked like they were going in a great direction earlier this year with the whole Give Divas a Chance movement. Then after AJ Lee left, they went to the shitter, They just stopped caring about the women, and it sucks. On the main roster anyway. Like, I love the women down at NXT, that goes without saying. And the current storyline of the Bella Army versus Paige, like, I don't care. Because there's no reason to like anyone involved. The Bella Twins with the heel face turns, I lost interest a long time ago, if I even had interest to begin with. Naomi, going back and forth, again, I don't care. Paige even also comes off as unlikable. She can come off as a bitch sometimes, and she's a babyface, So the whole thing with those women, it sucks. Like I said, I don't blame the women. It's WWE's handling of the women and just not caring, and it's really sad to see. So I'm really pulling for that day that Triple H takes over and booking the women on the main roster. Maybe he already is. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I feel like if Triple H is handling the main women roster, the main roster women rather, it's going to be in a lot better state. But anyway, the only reason I have any sort of interest, I have no interest in the current storyline, but my assumption, along with many other people, is that they might be calling up the 4 horsewomen from NXT. Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, and Bayley. That would be awesome, and I would be all for that. I don't think it's, if they are going to do it, maybe at some point in the next few weeks. And I know someone, at CapandKeller29, who also asked a question, I'll get to his question in a couple minutes. We were going back and forth about this on Twitter a couple days ago, just kind of, friendly, talking about how we would book the storyline. He was saying that it would be better if they were doing this later on this year for a Survivor Series match, and that would be great. But, the only issue is that we can't wait any longer for those women to be called up, especially Charlotte. She's been ready for a long time now. We cannot wait another 6 or 5 or 6 months for those women to be called up. We need that to happen sooner the better, because right now I just don't care. And maybe when they're called up, it'll be a little bit better, but I don't have full faith in the writing team or Vince or whoever is booking the women for the division to suffer a complete turnaround when they get called up to the main roster. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Next question comes from at E13A. Their question was, do you think there's a dangerous issue of babyfaces in the modern era not being likable and heels not being unlikable enough? Absolutely. I mean, it's a pretty, broad statement, but, even JR, Jim Ross has gone on the record before and talking about on his podcast and then blogs, and I wholeheartedly agree. Heels these days are not doing enough to get themselves hated by the audience. That's why I think Punk and McMahon and all these other guys were such great heels, because even though they were just, people were starting to embrace them, that they would do anything in their power to turn the fans against them, because they knew their role. They weren't going to endear themselves to the audience. They weren't going to do that at all, at any cost, and that's why they were such great heels. The heels today, like Wade Barrett, when he was still over as a heel about a year ago, he would be chanting along with the fans and doing the whole, boom thing together, and which is cool if you want to turn him babyface. But if you're not going to turn him babyface, then keep him as a heel. I'm not saying every heel needs to cheat, but they need to do it effectively. It's the little heel mannerisms that make them heels, and if you're not doing that, and if you're playing along to the audience, like a Kevin Owens, he's over with the audience, but down in NXT, he's so hated because he turns the fans against him. You just love to hate the guy. I love Kevin Owens, but when he comes out, sometimes I find myself booing him because he makes people turn against him. I think it's great. So, that's absolutely an issue nowadays, and I think these heels, the current generation of wrestlers need to learn from the older guys, and it's not like, how it used to be in my day, whatever. Now, I'm not saying that, but like for the older guys, it's just those little minute things that make the biggest differences in wrestling. How you act towards the audience, how you act in your matches, how you cheat, how you do this or that. That's the little things that make the biggest differences when it comes to character development. I think I absolutely agree. They need to address that issue of making the heels, unlikable. They need to stop endearing them to the audience. And with the baby faces, that kind of affects the baby faces thing, as you said, with not being likable enough. With the heels, endearing themselves to the audience and kind of playing, fan favorite and stuff, and that kind of makes it a worse situation for the baby face they're facing, because the crowd is not going to side with them. They're going to turn against that guy. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a lose-lose situation for everyone involved, unless they address that issue and hopefully make it better in the years to come, or, hopefully in the foreseeable future. Next 2 questions come from at Captain Keller 29. I mentioned him before. His first question was Austin Aries, Magnus, James Storm, and Loki all leaving TNA in the last few days. What do you think that means for this company? It's really hard to say, man. It sucks because it seems like every day I look at a headline that says another top star leaving TNA, another top star leaving TNA. Like, this company, man, and unless it's on an elaborate work and we're all being swerved here and they're all joining GFW only to invade, great for GFW, great for TNA, great for the fans. That's awesome, but I feel like that's not the case. This company is just in such a terrible state. You mentioned those 4 guys, but those all 4 guys left on their own, but then you have Gunner and Samuel Shaw, who left recently, or who got fired, but still, they got the boot. Chrissy Hemme, who is apparently one of the creative directors, might be leaving. A lot of backstage personnel, some production crew members. And then you go back, for the last couple of years, Samoa Joe, Jeff Jarrett. When the founder of your company leaves the company, that's not a good sign. I know he recently came back, but the fact he left at all is not a good sign. Jeff Jarrett staying, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Chris Sabin, Alex Shelley, Kazarian, the list goes on and on and on. It sucks. It really, really sucks. And, it's not a good sign. And I'm not going to say, they're going to close down tomorrow, but it's a sinking ship. I know the Solid Monster was talking about that on his Twitter. I was laughing at that tweet he put out, just yesterday when he talked about the sinking ship that is TNA, and I could not agree more. And a lot of people are saying that. And I love TNA, but all this, and I'm just laughing because it's a funny situation because, like, what the hell, just the fact that these people are all leaving at once and all this other crap, it sucks, man. It really sucks. Like I said, I'm not gonna, fear for the worst and say, they're gonna close down. But I'm really pulling for TNA here. But when you have a couple of your originals and some of your biggest stars, low key, Magnus, Storm, and Aries, leave your company, that's when you know you're in a bad state. So all we can do is keep our fingers crossed when it comes to TNA. And we get to our final question, also from Captain Keller 29. His question was, what Divas match or matches could you see happening at WrestleMania 32? So like I talked about my latest Henry Marr article a couple days ago, my top 10 bold prediction for matches at WrestleMania, I would go with Stephanie versus Rousey. Because that match is, more popular. That match is going to sell more than any other possible match they can do. I don't care if Trish or Lita come out of retirement or fucking Fabulous Moolah comes back from the dead. No match they're going to do at WrestleMania will sell more buy rates, for women anyway, than Rousey versus Stephanie. Because Rousey's just so hot right now in the sports industry and UFC and just all over the world right now with everything that she's doing. There's no way she's not going to bring in a new wave of fans, a new audience, a new set of eyes to WrestleMania if she was to compete next year. Is it in the books? Very unlikely. Like I said before, RJ and I talked about this a while ago, that we don't think that Dana White is going to give him the green light, give Vince the green light to have Ronda wrestle at WrestleMania next year. So I don't think that's in the cards. So if that doesn't happen, unfortunately, then I think Paige and Charlotte would be a great match for WrestleMania. That's the closest thing to a dream. I wouldn't even call it a dream match, but the biggest money match that you could do for the Divas Championship in this day and age. Because I think with everyone else that is left and whatever, Paige and AJ was that match. When that AJ is gone, they did the feud, they botched it. We have no real money matches left in the women's division. But I think Paige and Charlotte, because if you can recall, when Paige was down in NXT and she was feuding with the BFFs, if you can recall those, that faction, Summer Rae and Sasha Banks and Charlotte, she never, she faced Summer a number of times, she faced Sasha a number of times, but during the times, during that period in time when she was feuding with the BFFs, Charlotte, I think, was out with an injury. And then when Charlotte won the women's championship down in NXT, Paige had vacated it. So they never, at any point, I don't think, went one-on-one. I think they faced each other in a tag team match, and Paige, or one of Paige's final matches, a part of NXT, she got pinned by Charlotte in tag team action. But other than that, though, again, my memory, if it serves me correctly, I don't think those two ladies have had a one-on-one match in NXT at all, So that would be awesome. I would love to see a Paige and Charlotte match, especially given how far Charlotte has come in NXT. If she can be called up in the next few weeks, tomorrow night on Raw, hopefully this at the soonest, tonight on Raw if you're watching this on Monday. I'm filming this on Sunday, that's why I say that. But Charlotte and Paige is that match to me. They'll probably blow it off in an episode of Superstars or something, but give it away in an episode of Main Event. But, I feel like Paige and Charlotte would be a great match for WrestleMania. Because what else are you going to possibly do? Another Battle Royal? Another Paige and Nikki match? I don't really care. Honestly, they have a lot of great women talent, but unless you do, a big match between your two biggest names in the division right now, the biggest name on NXT and the biggest name in the main roster being Paige. All due respect to the Bella Twins, but I feel like Paige is the one that you can have a bigger money match with, so to speak, as the match could be better with Paige and Charlotte as opposed to Nikki and Charlotte. I feel like Charlotte will be the one to take the title off of Nikki. That's not all that big of a bold prediction. I know I put that in a What Culture article, which should be up in the next few days. But I feel like that's going to be happening, around the corner as well. That should happen. She should be the one to end the longest reigning streak, the long reign of Nikki Bella as Divas Champion. And then you can transition into Charlotte with the belt versus Paige for the championship at WrestleMania 32. So that's going to do it for this week's edition of #AskUSM. As I mentioned at the start of the video, my apologies, folks, for cutting off the deadline this week a little bit early on Saturday night, because like I said, I'll be traveling all of today or Monday. I'm filming this on Sunday, but as you're watching this on Monday or later on throughout the week, I'll be on vacation this upcoming week. I'll be traveling on Monday, so I didn't know when I was going to be able to film it. I do not like to miss weeks. I don't think I missed a week yet. I think the only week we've missed for hashtag AskGSM since the start of 2014, a year and a half ago, was maybe like the week after the Rumble. That's only because I did a part of the radio show that week, a part of Wrestle Rant Radio. But other than that, though, we have yet to miss a week. I didn't want to start tomorrow, so I filmed it today instead, just to be safe. But anyway, though, if you do want to send in a question, make sure to tweet me on Twitter at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the wall or leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Sunday nights. And finally, leave a comment down in this very video, and I'll be sure to include your question in next week's edition. So with all that being said, folks, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All your support is greatly appreciated. Enjoy Raw tonight. Have an awesome week, and I'll catch you guys down the road.